Greetings and welcome to the ROI Clear podcast. My name is Ray Hightower, and today we are fortunate to have as our guest Ms. Faith Canale. Faith is the founder and CEO of Interrante Enterprises and other companies. She has an amazing background. Faith is a real estate developer, a real estate investor, an engineer, a realtor, a builder, a speaker, a veteran of the United States Air Force, where she has done engineering projects at the Pentagon. She has an amazing background. Every time I talk to Faith, I learn something about her that I did not know before. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with her today. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Ms. Faith Canale. Faith, welcome to the ROI Clear podcast.
All right, good to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, really glad to have you here. And to get started, to kick things off, why don't we start with an elevator pitch? And for those who are new to the ROI Clear podcast, Faith is on an elevator with someone she wants to influence. So, Faith, what would you say to that person in the course of an elevator ride?
I'd say that we are a real estate company focused on maximizing and expediting return on investment. So as fast and as much as possible. And we work for our partners and with our partners, and we do services for clients who are asking for that type of help. We go through detailed analysis, capital improvements to increase value and to decrease expenses. We offer our services to others and to our teams. And we are very proud to say we have never lost money from the beginning of time. That's all through the 2006 through 8, COVID, we've never lost money.
Faith, that is huge. Through the crisis, through what today we call the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis, you did not lose money through that 2006 to 2008, 2010 period.
And there's a reason.
Yes. Let's explore that. What is it about you that you're able to manage projects so well and exercise such discipline that you didn't lose money through that? Because that's what we all remember as a very tumultuous time. What is it your secret?
When I looked at, I think the engineer in me made that happen because I love data. I love spreadsheets. I love Excel. I mean, to me, it's like a game. And I don't play video games. I play Excel. And then you take the data and you graph it, and you can graph like data points. But the most important thing are the trends. So I always overlay a trend line. And so I saw that the trend line on real estate pricing started approaching an exponential curve around 2004, 2005. And then, of course, as you know, it hit an exponential curve. It was almost vertical. And then I also looked at the leading indicator, again, engineering stuff. The leading indicator of that was days on market. And so I knew when it was going to turn because days on market started to increase. So in June of 2006 in Tucson, Arizona, it went flat. Days on market started to increase. And then, of course, it hit the roller coaster ride downhill after that. So in 2005, I developed a dual exit strategy because my quote was, we're going to see foreclosures the likes of which we've never seen before. And I couldn't get people to listen. And I said, okay, let's rephrase that. I'm going to study foreclosures and I'm going to buy all your stuff. And they still didn't listen.
Oh, wow.
Okay, I'll just do that. That's what I did. But so I developed a dual exit strategy. It's not that I stopped investing. I continued to invest. But the dual exit strategy, I needed to sell for a profit or rent for a profit. So that when it crashed, I was still making money through rental income, as opposed to doing a flip and getting it on the sale. So that's how I lost nothing, because I saw it coming.
That is powerful. There are many things we can unpack there. First, as you said, you don't play video games, you play Excel. So your passion for numbers and Excel put you in a position where when other people are just dancing around in a field of landmines as if it's daffodils, you see the landmines. You've identified the landmines through your Excel modeling, and you saw the trends. You were looking at days on market. You realized that days on market was going to be a leading indicator for you, telling you which way the market was going. You warned some people. You said, hey, we're headed towards massive foreclosures. They wouldn't listen to you. So you said, okay, I'm going to buy your foreclosures. That's what you did. And today you're massively successful. What all of those, there are so many things coming together. That's your engineering background. That plays a role. But I think there's also you have a high level of confidence in your conclusions. And I think it's justified based on your track record. Because there are some engineers who will make conclusions and never do anything. You have no problem taking action.
There's no fear.
Right. There's no fear, just numbers. And as you said earlier, Excel, it's like a game. If you look at it as a game, but it's a game where you have to execute discipline, as if you're a professional athlete or an Olympian or something like that. You execute discipline, you gather the data, you execute discipline, you announce to some people, they don't listen, so you take action. There it is. That's remarkable. Now, let me ask you this. Where did that come from? Let's go back to the Faith Canale, who was a student at the United States Air Force Academy, where you went to undergrad. Tell us about that young lady and what experiences there in Colorado Springs helped to shape you into who you are today.
Well, I think I'm going to take it back one step further.
Okay.
So I have 4 siblings.
Yes.
I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and all my siblings are playing outside.
Yes.
I mean, I'm looking out the window, watching them play, and I'm sitting at the dining room table with my homework, my math
Yes.
homework. And I wanted to play with them.
Yes.
And I could not bring myself to play because I had homework.
Yes.
And so I started to cry because I wanted to be different. And then I decided I'm not going to cry the rest of my life. I'm just going to be different, and I'm going to own my difference. And I thought, what am I going to do with my life? And I decided I was going to be an engineer. So that was it, 9 years old. And then I started very focused on the best engineering schools in the country. And of course, the service academies are stellar engineering schools. So that's what put me there.
Yes.
And then in your first year, you study multiple engineering disciplines, electrical engineering, aeronautical, astronautical, all the engineering disciplines. And I just found my home in structural engineering. I just loved it. To me, again, another game. It was fun. It was visual. I like visual kind of engineering. So they purposely give you more than any human being could possibly do. On purpose, because they want you to have elements of failure. They want you to make choices of where you need to focus your time. So I had 27 semester hours. You can't.
27 semester.
27.
Where now? What is a typical load? How does that compare? Like when I'm thinking back to school, I think 15 hours would have been considered a typical load or even a heavy load.
Or 15, maybe 18 is full-time. It was very over full-time. But some of that was my choice, adding classes. And my average was 24. So it's a lot of classes. So you can't, and then you have a military job, and then you have mandatory marching, and so your time is taken up, and your first year you had mandatory bedtime, 11. So it's like, so it's definitely not enough time to get things done. So you have to learn where to spend your time so you can succeed across the board.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that helped.
Yeah. 9 years old, your 4 siblings are playing outside. Where were you in the birth order? Were you the oldest, the youngest, or were
middle?
You're right in the middle. Okay, so you're 9 years old. You're sitting at the dining room table, doing your homework. You want to go outside and play, but you want to go outside and play, but you won't allow yourself to because you had homework. That says something about your conscientiousness, your core desire to do what needs to be done, your discipline. So at that point, you're watching them play and you were thinking, wow, I want to go outside, but I have homework to do. And in around that time, you also decided to become an engineer because of your love of discipline and your love of numbers and your love of getting things done.
My father was an accomplished architect.
Yes.
So I grew up in the, that design building kind of field. So that's why I was familiar with it.
Mm.
And yet we had a big office in our house, with all his engineering books, because architects have to study engineering. And I used to go in there and read them. And I used to think, won't they let me take this stuff? This stuff's interesting.
Oh,
But I
instead
had to
of your,
wait. So I always felt like I was waiting to get to that point. It was like on
yes.
hold to get to that point where I was allowed
Mhm.
to study more difficult subjects.
Right, right. You're in your father's engineering books and you're saying, I want to do this. But yeah, unfortunately you have to go through middle school and high school and all of that stuff. All right. And then you looked at the service academies as a place to go to continue your engineering education. I would argue that your engineering education began when you were 9, because then you were absorbing it yourself. You were enthusiastic and absorbing that. Started at the Air Force Academy. You were required to, well, you were exposed to multiple engineering disciplines: electrical engineering, aeronautical, structural. You found your home at structural engineering. What is it about structural engineering that drew you in?
The basic study, like your first year of study, is trusses like on
Hmm.
bridges.
Yes.
And I liked I liked that it was tangible. For example, like electrical engineering, my whole thing was, but why? But why does it work? But why? And it
Yes.
throws me out of my mind. I went, that's not for me. But in
Yes.
structural, you could see it, you can do calculations, you can build it, and I was fascinated with it. I made fun of the civil engineers. This is a little funny. I'd make fun of the civil engineers and I'd go, oh, so what are you studying this semester? Toilets.
Yes.
And the irony is my license is civil engineering. So
Oh, there you go.
become a civil engineer after I tease them for 4 years.
So now you have a license in toilets. There you go.
Toilets.
Full, yeah, you made fun of them at full circle.
Yeah.
That all comes together. And so you're at the United States Air Force Academy. You graduate from the Air Force Academy. Take us through your career from there.
Well, then, of course, when you graduate from the Air Force Academy, you have a military commitment.
Hmm.
Um, and it changes. Congress always makes different rules. But when I graduated, I did not go to pilot training. I did fly gliders,
Hmm.
and I flew Cessnas after graduation. But I have a takeaway from flying gliders while I was at the academy.
Yes.
People said, "Well, isn't that dangerous? Because there's like no engine. You don't get a
Hmm.
second chance." Like,
Yes.
and I said, "Only if you make a mistake." So don't make a mistake. And so
Don't
that
make a
carries
mistake.
forward. Don't make a mistake. Don't lose money. Don't make a mistake. Do it right.
Wow.
And but I served in the military for a career,
Hmm.
and I did some kind of interesting things. I was a commander, and in the Air Force, civil engineering commanders, you're like a little construction company.
Hmm.
And so because you operate the base, and so we had 13 specialties, even entomology, the bug people,
Wow.
exterminators, uh, electricians, including the pole climbers, exterior electricians, heavy equipment. It was just fun and interesting. We built schools in Panama, in austere locations, like
Hmm.
41 miles offshore. That's pretty austere.
Yes.
Where no roads, no fresh water, no electric, no showers.
Wow.
and
Yes.
and we had to bed down there for a few weeks to build a school. And
Hmm.
so without getting into all the details, how do you do that? So it's a challenge. And for me, give me something in a place where I've never been, in a thing that's considered impossible, and I'm very interested. That intrigues me. I want to do that. And that was considered the impossible project. And but we succeeded. It was fantastic. And we engineered like leper communities. I didn't even know leprosy still existed in the
No,
world.
I wasn't aware.
I didn't even know that. And
What part of the
so
world was that?
that was in Panama.
That was in Panama also.
That
Yes,
was in
okay.
Panama.
Hmm.
So the idea of travel, I got to do a lot of traveling and working in different countries, and that carried on after the military, mainly as an engineer,
Hmm.
doing engineering work. So as a civilian engineer, I was on a US delegation to China,
Hmm.
which was awesome. And we worked with engineers, contractors, educators, the whole medley of what creates the built environment.
Yes,
And
yes.
then Germany, Moscow, of course, in the military, multiple other places, Brazil,
Hmm.
Suriname. I always say, "Where's Suriname?" And people they think all kinds of crazy things. And I said, "What language do they speak in South America?" And everyone's like, "Spanish." I said, "Totally wrong, totally wrong. Dutch they speak in Suriname, and Portuguese they speak in Brazil." And so it's only through a sense of travel do you really get it, and
Hmm.
you can't get it from a book. And so anyway, that fascinates me. So the career in the military with travel, and not just travel like sightseeing, but working side by side with people from other countries,
Hmm.
um, it just makes you more understanding and better. It just makes you a much better human.
Hmm. You want a challenge that seems impossible in a part of the world that you've never been to before.
Yes. Yes, I'm your person.
There it is. There it is. That's what superheroes want. Wow. So you've been you went Panama, Russia, China, Suriname. You're picking up multiple languages too. How many languages do you speak now?
I just would pick up just the basics of what you
Yes.
need to say, like shay shay.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Shay Shay
just-
and Mandarin.
so
Yes. Okay.
yeah, just the basics. I like in Panama building schools and working with the local mayors. I had an interpreter with me,
Hmm.
so that worked out well. And even like that, um, another funny story. So if you like funny stories.
Oh
So
yes,
funny,
sure.
funny story is I told you I was commander, but what I didn't tell you is no female had ever commanded engineering squadron. So I was female.
Yes.
And super female. So
Hmm.
what's a super female?
What's a super female?
7 months pregnant when I took command.
Wow. Wow.
So you can imagine the guys in the squadron like, is this a joke? It was just like so funny. So then here you are, and you're in charge, and you're going for on a deployment into another
Hmm.
country, and into a country where there's like machismo. And so headquarters call me. Remember, they've never worked with a woman, and they
Yeah.
said, "Well, no women can deploy." I went, um, by the way, I am a woman and I'm going. And I said, so this is where the Siciliano, I'm Sicilian, and I made
Yeah.
them an
Yes.
offer.
Yes.
I make you an offer you cannot refuse. And so my offer was, well, here's what I promise. I will only send the best people, the most competent people. Can you live with that?
Mm.
See, they had no choice but to say
Right.
yes.
Right.
And so that's what I did. Yeah. So because it was kind of silly. And yeah, so, but obviously you have to then think you don't want mission failure
True.
because of machismo, and because you literally are a female and feminine. You
Hmm.
can't pass for a guy.
Hmm.
And ironically, it worked to our benefit,
Tell
because
us
there
about
were
that.
so many problems, because we did two schools, one on the island and one in Panama City.
Yes.
And the mayors are so proud and they don't want to reveal their weaknesses
Mm-hmm.
to another man.
Mm-hmm.
So they could reveal their weaknesses to me because I was not a threat. Therefore, I could help them even more. And that was an unexpected consequence that I was very pleased with.
That's a benefit you won't read about in a book.
No.
Are you able to give us, and I know some things you may be bound by confidentiality or discretion, what have you, but can you give us an example of one of the fears that one of these mayors or government officials had that they revealed to you and that you were able to do something with in a positive way? Are you able to share that, or is that an area that you can't discuss?
Well, I really, some of the things I won't, but what I can say is there were embarrassing medical situations.
Mm, okay.
And so I was able to bring in a medical team.
Yes.
And so that would be one thing they would not want to tell a man.
Understood.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so I was able to get a medical team.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
It's like, you know, a thing needs to happen. You know, you're on an austere location. You know, no one else can bed down there because for us to bed down took a half a year to get everything prepared.
Right.
So you know, once you leave, whatever you did, that's all that's going to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get motivated to make sure other people get motivated, like the medical team to deploy. So you
Yes.
sit down at headquarters and you don't leave until they agree. You just plant yourself. And so, but I did end up at the Pentagon, which was the horse's mouth, as I see it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so there's uh, I would say it was my life sentence, and I survived it. It's very
Okay.
long hours. So I happened to be brought there in the peak of the war, and so it was very busy, very
Mm-hmm.
stressful. People's lives were on the line, so it
Right.
was
Right.
really something else. The other thing in the Air Force, not in the other services, but in the Air Force, EOD, the explosive ordnance disposal, the bomb
Mm-hmm.
people are in civil engineering,
Oh,
and as is the fire department. So
right.
you're like a fire marshal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so civil engineering, EOD, safing all the IEDs, the
Yes.
improvised explosive devices, that was our bailiwick. And I was the Air Force's representative to Department of Defense in the peak of the war. All the robotics, all the, drones, all the was things that we did. And it was just busy, very stressful.
So through that experience at the Pentagon, you were again touching multiple disciplines of engineering.
Yes. Yes, and we have the whole construction program, a multi-billion-dollar worldwide program. So the
Mm-hmm.
entire physical plant of the Air Force, you can imagine, is very
Mm-hmm.
large.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so all it's hierarchy, all the squadrons deployed or stateside would report to their major commands, would report, and it just end up in the Pentagon for final decision and
Mm-hmm.
bringing the president's budget forward
Right.
to through Congress. And so yeah, the horse's mouth. You get to sit in congressional hearings, you get to create the president's budget, you get to see what the problems are, massive decisions, and hopefully you hope that you're making the right decisions based on data and analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was in the past.
These are amazing stories. You've had these amazing adventures. I can only imagine what Thanksgiving dinner is like at your house. You're there with your husband and your kids and your grandkids, and you're all around. And what are what are some of the things that they're asking you about, and what are some of the things that Because just having you in the room, I just imagine that members of your family want to ask you about what you're doing and some of your adventures. What do you end up talking about? And what values are you passing on to those next generations too? I know that's a multi-layered question, but I know you can handle it because you like a challenge.
Well, to the contrary, the only one I spoke about anything that I did was my husband,
Oh,
because I am a mother.
yes.
And so when I would come home, I would change out of my military uniform.
Mm-hmm.
When I get on a plane, I change into civilian clothes because I would have to change who I am,
Hmm.
from hard charging military to soft, sweet mommy.
Hmm.
And so I would always do that. Um, so maybe I have a dual personality. No. I would always do that change. And so my children really were unaware
Hmm.
of what I did. And my husband go, what does your mother do? Oh, she helps us with our homework. you know, and go, yeah, but what do you don't know what she is? And but that's to me, that's a measure of success. So
Hmm.
my children traveled with me a lot because in the military they have other women with children of wives of military members, basically, and they'd
Mm-hmm.
have one or two of their own children, and they could take in like two more children. And so everywhere I went, I interviewed these women and brought my children with me. It was a very long logistics tale because I wanted to be involved with my children.
Yes.
And so I uh, put it in perspective. My daughter was born in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
You remember what happened in 2001?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes.
So
Absolutely.
she was on 104 flights with me before she turned two.
Wow. Frequent flyer miles
That's a
for 2
lot.
years.
I stopped counting. I got out over 100. I got to 104. I stopped counting, and she wasn't even two.
Mm.
So, yeah, she's proud of that. She wears that like a badge of honor. So I always say when there's a will, there's a way.
Yes.
And if your will is to be successful in all that you do, you have to find a way. And find the way, you need others. You need help and support from other people, obviously, um, or you can't succeed in the way you might want to. And but and you were asking not just what the children thought, but what was the second part of your question?
Yeah. And children, grandchildren, family, how is
Oh.
that interaction? Yeah. What kind of stories are
So
shared?
you get to a point and you have you know a decent net worth.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to think about it. What do I do? And I do enjoy speaking to, my peers about this. Like, what are you planning to do? Because every single advisor I spoke to, their advice was, well, how do you want to divide it between your children and at what age do you want to give it to them? And I didn't like that as an answer.
Hmm.
And guess what? I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
So to really to really build a legacy, you need to influence your heirs, your
Hmm.
children, your grandchildren, the people after that. So they don't get the money. They apply for the money. They apply for it. And this is in writing, but it has to be for improving society,
Mm-hmm.
improving themselves, meaning return on investment. And it could be starting a foundation, it could be starting a business, it could be getting a college education. But by golly, they are not going to buy cars on that
Right.
money. They're going to buy their own cars, and because that's a depreciable asset. So
Yes.
it's just so I like that idea, and I talk to them about it. Like one of my little granddaughters who's really good at math, and she's
Mm-hmm.
8, and she's like, "Well, how much?" And I went, "Zero, zero." I said, "You have to apply, and you have to be good, and you have to contribute because that's what my husband and that's what we do, and that's
Yes.
why that needs to be." So I'm hoping that in the long run, it makes a difference in society. That's the goal.
you are passing on some amazing values to the next generations.
Trying, hopefully succeeding.
And it's powerful the way, you know, I've seen how you and Todd interact, or just the way you, there is so much good that is coming out of the world because of what the decisions that you're making and the activities that you're making. You know, even you mentioned with your 8-year-old granddaughter, no, you have to apply. You're setting a standard. And I would imagine that when you look at her, you might see your 9-year-old self inside at that dining room table doing your homework when your siblings are out playing.
Yeah, and I didn't realize, makes me realize just how odd I was. Super odd. I also opened a savings account when I was 9 all by myself. Didn't even tell my parents. I just walked it. This is New York City, down 7th Avenue to the bank with my bag full of dimes and a savings account.
You opened your own savings account when you
I
were
did.
9.
And
All
I
right.
applied for my own social security number when I was
Yes.
9. Yes, because you had to do that. And then I
Yes.
came home and told my parents, oh, I just opened a savings account. They were like, what? And I thought that was normal. And now I realize that was totally not normal. But I gave my parents their first loan before I turned 10. And you know what? I really liked how that felt. I
Mm,
really, really liked that with money, I could help people. And
yes.
that has definitely carried forward in my life. And so, like with this, I try to encourage people to hop on, learn, come with us. You can do it too. There's no reason why you can't.
Right.
But so many people are frozen in fear, really frozen in fear. And I spoke to a few years ago a group of young women, like, and they said, I said, what do you want me to speak about? And they said, this motivational conversation. And so I told about some of the things that I've done. And one of the girls raises her hand and she said, well, weren't you afraid? And I thought, no, I was totally perplexed. And I didn't, until that point, really realize how frozen in fear people are, just
Mm,
frozen. And
yes.
it never occurred to me that I should be afraid because
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't and I'm not.
Right.
So um, I think maybe, like I said, you fly a glider, just don't make a mistake. Make sure you
Yes.
know what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you're going to buy an apartment complex, make sure you know what you're doing. If you're
Mm-hmm.
going to do a flip, you have to buy it at the right price. You have to understand what the after repair value is. You have to
Mm-hmm.
understand the holding costs. You have to understand the cost of renovation. So you have to guarantee you're going to make money or don't buy it. And you
Mm-hmm.
you need to be not get impatient and pass on those things that the numbers don't work. Because really, it starts with the numbers. So like if I go into a property, I always say I let the only person allowed in is the engineer to do analytical, look around, get ideas, see if the numbers make sense. Then the designer is allowed in. The
Mm.
designer has no budget,
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
and then can see the potential. And so the designer is able to move projects beyond what the engineer can do. The engineer ensures you're going to make money. The
Yes.
designer is the creative mind that can propel you to make more.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not allowed in first. Nope, they're
Sure.
not allowed in
You want
first.
to make sure you have the constraints in place. You want to have what's a good, you want to have guardrails in place
Yes,
before the designer comes in. I got to
yes.
tell you, it's we're in a deal together in Tucson. It's really an honor to be working with you, to have you on the team, our partnership. I tell people all the time that for asset management that we have on this Tucson deal that we have together, it's total overkill on our asset management team. I think, you and Tari and Colby and Greg are just total overkill, which I think you want because then you're going to identify problems before they become, you'll identify them when they're small so that you can deal with them, before they become big. In the same way that you saw what was going on in the market in 2004, you were looking at days on the market in 2004, and everyone was, what are you talking about? Let's dance. It's a party. It's a party. What are you doing, Faith? Don't ruin the party. And you're talking days on market, and you told them, hey, I'm going to buy your foreclosures. And they're like, what foreclosures? I don't see any foreclosures. But
Wait.
you saw it in the future
Mhm.
because
Yes.
you play a game called Excel. Oh, wow.
So in the deal that we're on, which is a syndication, um, so I'll tell you my favorite part of
Yes.
the syndication
Yes.
as a general partner and as an asset manager on the deal, um, is the teamwork.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite part.
Yes.
Because a lot of investing, building, you're a team, but you have your teams. You have your subcontractors, you have your finance people. You're not really, everybody has their own goal,
Yes.
feeding your goal. But with this, the team all have the same goal in the military known as the mission. And
Yes.
so I really enjoy that. Enjoy the camaraderie.
Yeah, that's good. We are able to get so much done that none of us could do as individuals. I feel richly blessed to have the team that we have there. That's, you and everyone else we have on that team. It's remarkable. So yeah, I don't take that for granted. It's a big deal. Wow, we're coming towards the end of our time together. This time is going really quickly. It's coming really, really quickly. Um, as we wrap things up, I know you're a reader and a learner. When you were 9, you were reading your dad's engineering books. So clearly, you have a bias towards learning. What are you reading now, or what are you listening to now to sharpen your brain and to sharpen yourself as you move forward?
Well, there's two key books and messages that I'm reading. One is called The Millionaire Messenger.
Mm,
So it's how to articulate your message, how to have other people listen to your message, because there is, other than just investing, there's a message I want to give, and which is, if you have a pot of gold, spill it on your doorstep. And I'm really passionate about it. And we
mm-hmm,
probably don't have time to delve into that, but it's a message I want to pass on,
mm-hmm.
because if everyone did that, change the world. It would be a huge change. And so I'm reading Millionaire Messenger to learn how to do that, because it's not really my bailiwick.
Yes,
And but I'm passionate to get that message out. So I'm going to learn how to do it. And
yes.
then the other book I'm reading is How to Make Big Money in Small Apartments. And so I'm reading that one because my focus right now that I will be doing soon, I'm just trying to wait for the right property. I'm looking at multiple properties, is to flip a small apartments. So
Mm-hmm.
I've been looking at, 12 to 16 units, maybe up to 30 units, and to turn them, remember I said maximize return on investment and
Yes.
expedite return on investment. So like in a syndication, it takes, 5 years or more. Um, and with a small apartment, you can actually like flip it in 12 to 18 months, depending on the
Ah,
scenario.
right.
So, so that's a focus. That's the next Excel game I'm playing.
Yeah, the next Excel game. We're going to make sure that we include those in our show notes, that we appreciate those recommendations. And then there's your future right there. Like, some people flip houses, you're looking at flipping small apartments. So then you're multiplying what someone else would do with a single family house.
And I've done many flips. So I'm
Yes.
very comfortable in that area,
Solid.
and own
Solid.
rentals. So very comfortable.
Excellent.
Easy kill.
Easy, easy. All right, there we go. There we go. And then finally, how can people get in touch with you?
They can call me So shall I give my phone number?
If you want to, we'll include it in the show notes, whatever number
Sure.
you give
They
us
can
here.
call me or they can email me at faith@intercanenterprises.com
Okay.
and um, or text me.
Okay.
I'm very open to have, candid conversations. I love what I do.
Yes.
I do not have to work. I have not had to work for a long time.
Wow.
And I
Yes.
work 7 days a week because
Mm-hmm.
I just love it. So I know when I'm going to retire,
Yes.
when I'm 6 foot under.
I
That's when,
love that.
because
I
right now
love
I'm
that.
playing. And, people go, well, don't you have any hobbies? I'm like, yeah, investing, building. These are my hobbies I get
Yes.
paid for. So,
And what's
yeah.
so wonderful, that hobby that you have, investing, building, there's so many people who benefit from it.
Yes. Yes. Many people, especially the tenants.
Mm-hmm. There it
Mhm.
is. We'll make sure we include your email address and phone number in the show notes, along with your recommendations, your book recommendations. Faith Canale, it has been an honor speaking with you here today on the ROI Clear podcast. We've gone over our normal time because I just kept asking you questions because I wanted to know more, and we certainly want to have you back. At some point, we want to have you back. So it's been an honor having you here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Bye.
And thank you for engaging the ROI Clear podcast. At ROI Clear, we buy multifamily apartment properties, we improve them, and we give people a great place to live. At the same time, we give investors an opportunity to enjoy capital preservation, tax advantages, and a solid return on investment. If you'd like to know more, click the link to roiclear.com down below. We look forward to speaking with you.